Yep. So, what is this, and why am I even covering it? This is Power Beach Bandits for the GameCube and PS2, an action platform sports title developed by Evolution Games and published by THQ. It's based off the show Rocket Power by the early 2000s powerhouse Klasky Csupo, known for shows like Rugrats and The Wild Thornberrys. The show itself is just a general slice of life following a group of kids doing sports in the wake of the extreme sports boom of the early 2000s that made Tony Hawk a household name. So if that's the case, what's there even to talk about with a video game adaptation? It's just kids doing sports. That's all there is to it, right?
Who disturbs the great volcano god? None shall pass.
I have had enough of your distractions, Rocket Children. It is time you were deactivated.
Uh-oh. Me don't like that guy much, but sheesh.
This is not a simple sports game. Rather than just make a Tony Hawk clone and call it a day, the guys at Evolution Games decided to make an action platformer to coincide with other Nick titles going around at the time, like Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. And it was this, right here, that gave me the spark of interest to look into this. It was just so ominous. That weird mix of obvious clip art used to save budget and weirdly intense writing made me want to see what the hell was going on here. Now, I haven't watched a full episode of Rocket Power before this game, but everything I've seen says that what's about to happen is, not really a Rocket Power style plot. I mean, maybe it is. If you can point me to the Rocket Power episode where they were dealing with a robotic invasion, I'd like to see that. Now, before we get into the meat of the story, I'd like us to appreciate the visuals, ironically or otherwise. The environments aren't too terrible to look at, but the character models are quite, early 2000s kids game. It's hard to explain, but they feel so cheap. Their animations are stiff. Outside of the eyes, they aren't very expressive, and watch what happens when you wipe out. I'll get more into some of the enemy designs as we go on, but the robots aren't terribly done, just serviceable antagonists. But anyone meant to resemble a human being just feels a little, uncanny. I can't fully blame the team. They probably didn't have an impressive budget, and translating 2D to 3D is not an art form that many have mastered, much less back in the early 2000s. I can be a little snippy when it comes to their audio, though. The voice actors give a solid enough performance. You can feel their wallets padding in nicely with their paychecks.
I'm not sure, guys. You are being careful, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, sure. Trust us, Raymundo. Best behavior.
No problemo. Trust us, Raymundo. We'll get to the bottom of this.
For sure.
But when you're in actual gameplay, there's a lot that stacks on each other to be kind of grating. Music and voices aren't balanced right, linked to dialogue that can be hard to hear.
Senor Rodriguez, what a director.
Sometimes the sound effects just get too loud for no reason.
That's one of those, that's for sure. It looks like he's trying to stimulate the volcano.
And every enemy has to make a sound for any reason, and it stacks, making you just want to smash them to shut them up. Another annoyance for me is the music. Now, it's fine for what it is. You've been hearing it all video, but the tracks are too short and end up looping in very obvious ways. they're fine in isolation, but having to hear the same minute 30 tracks when trying to herd these shark robots like cats is a pain. Also, characters just kind of say a lot of the same things.
Time to get some. Time to take out the scrap.
But shaky visuals and audio can be forgiven if the gameplay and story they support is alright. And are they? The gameplay itself is split into 3 major sections: vehicles, on foot, and some minigames. Let's start with on foot. That's how you'll be playing most of this. Characters can jump, move, climb, look in first person, swing a stick, and that's about it. Sometimes you get a camera, but that just changes your first person view slightly. Nothing feels awful. They move and jump how you expect them to, with only a few sections where things felt weirdly difficult in a way that the developers did not intend. Otherwise, for the most part, it's serviceable. I get turned around a few times because I'm an idiot and haven't played platforms in a while, but everything here is just okay kids game stuff. There's a jet ski too, but I'll cover that more when I talk about the lakes. For lack of a better analogy, it's very Tony Hawk light. Familiar, but watered down enough so that way kids can get the hang of it a lot easier. You have an accelerate, a jump, a trigger button for grinding, and a trigger button for tricks. Nothing happens if you use both at the same time, except for probably wiping out. Let's start with grinding. You move at the same speed you entered the rail at, with no real way to accelerate when you're on. It can also be hard to tell sometimes what you can and can't grind on, but that could just be me being an idiot. Now, despite the problems that not being able to accelerate can be, there is a very clear silver lining in that it's the fastest way to refill your rocket power, which gives you a speed boost. But before we talk about how to fill that, let's talk about the other kinds of tricks that you can do. When in the air, they're all kind of the same. A few grabs, 2 spins, 2 unique tricks per character. That's all well and good. Visually, they're fine. They're fast enough to pull off, but it lacks variety. You don't get any sort of fancier tricks when you fill up your rocket power gauge, you just get more airtime. Okay, let's talk about the rocket power. To get it, all you have to do is fill this rocket gauge on the right. And to fill that, all you need to do is perform tricks. Simple enough. But I think it's kind of too simple, because it doesn't care what kind of trick you do, it just cares that you do a trick. One trick fills it up 1/3 of the way, meaning 3 tricks fills it up completely, regardless of what kind or how many of the same trick you've already done. This is why grinding is such an effective method to build it up, as spamming the jump button while grinding will change your character's position, making it a new trick, meaning that it stacks, meaning that you'll just fill it all the way. This helps in getting it, and it also helps in keeping it, as when you have rocket power, doing tricks will give you more of it, and the same principle applies. Now you might think that it's a good idea to just have it going all the time, every time, and for a lot of the game, yeah, it is. But there are some sections that become a much bigger headache when you use this. As far as the controls themselves, I only have one real gripe, and that may just be a me thing, but that's trying to jump. Unlike the Pro Skater series, where you ready a jump by holding, then releasing, jumps are done the moment you press the button. Whether or not it's a deal breaker is preference, but it made a few collectibles more of a pain than they really should have been. Last thing to really cover are the minigames. They're a grab bag of short events like shooting galleries and puzzles. For the most part, they're serviceable. For some, it can be a pain to get a high score in. Then there's the bumper cars, which is the only minigame that you can play in multiplayer. It's a fun little distraction, but none of these really stand out. My least favorite of these has to be the first shooting gallery because to get a high score, you need to hit the target on the ceiling, and it can be hard to tell if you hit it or not until it's already gone due to some really weird hit detection. Now for the moment many of you had been chomping at the bit for the story, and the context of what the hell this is. Let's break it down. The basic premise is that someone stole all of the sand on the beach. Taken like a bandit. Oh hey, that's the title. But there's no more surfing until we get the sand back because it's too dangerous on the rocks. We also get to see evil McBad guy Eric Golem step into the picture to be like, I am here. I am going to try and fix this problem that I am obviously causing. But you don't know that. So now the Rocket team have their motivation. Go out, try and collect evidence, and bust Eric Golem so they can get their beach back. Oh, and also there's a land development plot somewhere during all of this. The formula for each day is basically just you run around, you find someone who needs something done, do the thing, and you move on. You also need to collect 15 silver coins, mostly for the minigames, that will get you tickets or something important for the next area. Moving on foot is slow, but thankfully you can choose to swap the boards or blades anytime you want, which helps not only collecting every coin, but also just moving around. You're forced off your vehicle every time you go through a loading screen, which can add up when looking for missions and coins. Another neat detail is that you can change characters anytime for most of the game, so if you're tired of running around as one person, you can try another. After getting informed that the lakes are being drained too, you take a school bus, okay, to investigate, and here's where the first proper platforming level is. I'm gonna be real, if I go through every section of these stages, we'll be here all day. So I'll just highlight a few things of note and move on. First thing, you can't put on your skates or boards anytime you want in these sections. It's all on foot. Kind of really kills the sports theme, but you still get to use hockey pucks to attack enemies. Most of the time you don't even really need to fight them. I just kind of did it because what the hell else was I going to do? Second, these gold coins. They're collectibles that you can get from doing challenges or finding them in stages. They only exist to unlock stuff for multiplayer. If you aren't interested, there's really no reason to go and pick them up other than seeing the number go up. But gosh darn it, my stupid brain loves seeing them go up. So I went out of my way to collect everything. Third, the jet ski. Oh boy. It's probably the worst vehicle to control for me. Might have the second worst part of the game as a whole. It's all very loose. Getting the shark robots to run into the generators is a pain. It can be hard to move and accelerate the way you want to. The way the water moves really disrupts your flow. And it has one of the most obtuse puzzles I've seen in a kid's game to even get to it. If you can even call it a puzzle. You must be this tall. I just don't get it. Was I meant to go grab some stilts or something? Turns out, no, you just had to switch to Reggie. This is the only time in the game that changing to a different character via the menu is at all a mandatory thing. Every other time that the game makes you change character, it is either done via cutscene or the level just walks you to that character. This is the only time that the game puts the burden of choice on you for any sort of puzzle, if you can even call it that. Each lake has some sort of structure siphoning it off to somewhere, and you get to use the twister cam to find out where. Like I said, it's basically just a souped up first person view, but it's mandatory to take pictures. You find out he's been taking the sand and water to somewhere called Wishing Waters, and after saying sayonara to the last pumping station, you end up in a boss fight against a giant mechanical fish. One dropped by Eric Gollum himself. Hey, Twister, you've got a camera, right? We just used it. Tell me that you're recording this. Tell me that you are getting all of this prime evidence of him attempting murder on a child. This could end the game right here, showing him dropping this thing off. No. We're just going to beat it up and move on. We still have more game to play? Okay. Day 2. You beat a nerd's highest score to get a key. You meet Eric Gollum Jr. and establish him as a jerk.
Soon you'll regret thanking me.
And after stinking up a face for tickets, you get to Wishing Waters and find it's a water park. And after the greatest water slide animation in video game history,
I've always wanted to try this. Yeah, excellent.
All right.
you get inside and meet Cyrax? I didn't know the Lingway were part of the extended Nickelodeon universe. No, it's just the HAL 9000. He runs this entire facility, which you learn as a robot factory, building everything you faced and will face, using the resources drained from the area, with most of the army gathering at a place called Mondo Mountain. After being the best character in the game, hands down.
You think you've got what it takes to be a part of my beloved robot army? You don't look so tough to me. Get through that door, Private! Get up and move your pants!
Building a mech suit that only lasts like 2 areas, and some riveting dialogue.
It seems I've underestimated you. I never expected inefficient carbon-based life forms to make any progress against my superior silicon intelligence.
Oh, think you're pretty big, do you?
You make it to Hal's control core for what can charitably be called a boss fight? I'd call it boring. Now the idea is simple. You skate around the area, build up rocket power to hit the memory chips, and try not to get blown up. Every minute or so, he'll spawn some robot hoverboarders with lightsabers to strike you down. Unfortunately, they're branded by Disney, so they only mildly inconvenience you at best before they self-destruct. He hides his memory chips when he does this, making me wonder why he can't do it the whole time, but kids game. My real gripe with this is that because you have to use rocket power to hit the chips, that leads to a lot of downtime where you're just struggling to build up rocket power again. And if you do it at the wrong time, you end up getting a face full of lightsaber, which can lead to some more unneeded downtime, which can just lead to a bit of a headache. This section isn't really hard, it's just long. So after lobotomizing a supercomputer, you return home to find the construction efforts are already being underway to turn your hangout into a parking lot. It's kids only just above inconvenience, basically being the antagonist for day 3, where you have to beat them at sports and bumper cars. But in order to actually enter Mondo Mountain, you need to do one more thing. Lars, the town bully, has been a reoccurring annoyance this entire game, and only he knows the way to Mondo Mountain. But to get him to show you the way, you have to beat him down Bruce Man's Curb, which is a real place from the show as I learned. It's actually a pretty fun little racetrack, which you unlock from multiplayer after this level. I got a bit too lost in the need to go 100%, so I ended up backtracking trying to get some gold coins, and well,
Too bad, loser. I guess I'll be taking my new board now. Ta-ta!
but turnabout is fair play.
Oh no!
Well, look who got here. Finally. Well, Lars, time for your...
There's some more mountain climbing, and what I think was meant to be a proper boss fight with a so-called volcano god, but I just hit him with a golden puck and one-shot him. I do not care enough to go back and find out if he has more phases. Oh yeah, there's also this conveniently placed elephant that I didn't really have the time to mention. Throughout the game, there have been posters and sightings of Tak from Tak and the Power of Juju, an upcoming game series by Nickelodeon. I played one of them when I was younger. It was fun. But he just keeps showing up all over the place in this game, teasing you with him doing something, anything, and just kind of awkwardly watches you or runs away if you try to get close. This gave me some fleeting hope that he would be some super secret for getting 100 coins, like unlocking a demo for his game, or even having him as part of the multiplayer roster. We'll get back to that. For now, we finally made it inside. Golem Industries HQ, inside of a volcano. This is where I'll talk about the enemies, since otherwise you'll have to hear me talk about this vent maze, and the less said about how long I stayed here, the better. Credit where it's due. The enemies in this game come in all shapes and sizes, from ninjas that block your pucks, to Roombas, to soldiers, even lasers or drills or something. For most of the game you can safely ignore them, but here some of them start being made mandatory to progress. Like this tank, which, if you don't, will spawn unlimited Roombas. After one last go-through, including reuniting with the best character for a brief moment...
Move it, you sorry sack of silicon! You call that marching?
You finally make it to the heart of the operation and find... an earthquake machine. A doomsday weapon. I'm just... exasperated, flabbergasted, smeckledorfed. You shut it down and watch Eric Golem fall into the volcano himself. Which, hooray! The evil CEO is dead! Except it turns out he's a robot and talks about some real mastermind, which leads to... and I can't emphasize this enough. A bunch of kids who love extreme sports, fighting a telekinetic robot CEO in a quickly becoming active volcano. God, I love video games. You'd think that this game be over by now, right? What else is left after this? Oh ye of little faith. We're finally here. The last hurrah. The final gauntlet. Eric Gollum Jr. turns out to have been the one behind everything. And he's a sore loser. Saltier than the ocean he wants to drown us all in. They managed to goad him into one last competition, and every character gets to race him down, using every vehicle that we've seen in the game, ending in one last hoverboard race to the control room. But I did it. I beat Eric Gollum Jr. He threatened a sequel with him coming back as a changed brat.
Be more likable, and if I'm not on 10 years detention, I might see you next summer, okay?
And roll credits. So now the biggest question, after the other big question, what do you get for 100%? Maybe a playable tech? A new stage and multiplayer? Maybe some clips or demos? Well, all I got was this stupid shirt. Yes, as it turns out, you get nothing for completing the game 100%. In the GameCube version. I hear you can unlock episodes of the show in the PS2 version, but I'm a Nintendo kid. I'm sticking to that. Meaning that all that you get is bragging rights. And I am not about to play this game again on the PlayStation 2 just to confirm how many coins you need, if any. Now for the actual biggest question. Was this even any fun? Yeah. Kind of. It's average. Kind of aggressively average. Like, as much as I've griped about it, it's fine. But the most enjoyable aspects are stuff that you can just find a YouTube video for, and thanks for choosing mine. If you want a decent skateboarding experience, just play a Tony Hawk game. Or any of the other multitudes of sports titles out at the time. But if you really enjoy the show, or just want to have Rocket Power Beach Bandits in your completion cap, just play the Game Boy Advance version. I hear that's better. Thanks for watching, and thanks for bearing with my first go at this style of video. Be sure to check out my Blue Sky, leave a comment on how I can improve, and I hope your day gets better, even if it's already been good. Take care.